For most of my adult life, I, like most people, don't think I really knew what I wanted. I think on some level I wanted to be happy, I wanted to be fulfilled, I wanted to have work that was meaningful, I wanted a life partner, I wanted friends, I wanted to feel fit and good in my body. And a lot of this was on the surface, but if you're in a position of just actually knowing what you want, you are so far ahead of, I would say, most people who don't, and so much closer to having the life than you want than you think. So I just want to share that with you because as soon as I became clear, now I would call myself a successful person. I have a thriving career. I have a partnership, so to speak. I'm a celibate monk that is fantastic and fulfilling and deep and meaningful every day. and I most importantly, I think for me, I live a deeply fulfilling life, which I think is something that everybody wants but doesn't know that they want it. So I want to talk about one topic today that if you can practice this quality consistently in your life, you will be able to unlock achieving exactly what you want in your life with the right kind of strategy, which I talk about in a different video, how to get anything that you want. And it's true. I've practiced it. I've seen other people practice it, and everybody who practices it diligently gets whatever they want. It may not be in the time frame that they think or the exact package that they thought. Like, for example, I thought I wanted to marry a woman for my entire life. Turns out I wanted to marry myself or God, you could say. And I'm really happy this is the partner of my dreams, you could say, right? So I never would have expected that, but this is the way to do it. So in this video, I want to share with you one quality that is instrumental to getting exactly what you want. And that quality is ownership. If we take ownership for how we feel, how we think, and how we act, and really use this as a lens of how we look at our life in terms of how things happen to us and things that we do. Now, it's easier to take ownership for things that we do or things that we say that are in the physical world. It's a lot more difficult at first to take ownership for how we feel and how we think, because most people just feel like I can't control how I think. My brain just works this way. I just feel these things, which to some degree that's true. And I'm not talking about controlling our thoughts or controlling our feelings. I'm talking about mastery, meaning there is an art to navigating and mastering our internal world, as we call it, our feelings and our thoughts, most particularly. And the way that we do that, simply, and I talk about this in other videos, is that we accept how we feel and how we're thinking in the moment, and then we choose consciously. And we accept and we become aware. We accept what's happening. We don't resist it. We don't try not to judge it. We practice not judging it, and then we choose consciously. And you can do this probably about 1 million times a day, I suppose. I do it probably, 30 times a day, and I could probably do it far more. And just with that amount of times a day, it has led to a deeply transformative life that I live now every day of my life. And I'm 46. I've been doing this for maybe 20 years and diligently probably for the past, if I'm honest with myself, probably 3. Okay, so, and the more that we practice, the better that we get. So the quality of ownership, again, it's so in a way challenging for most people, I would say, to take ownership for the circumstances in our life. There was a great teacher back in the 30s. I can't remember his name right now, but he said, if I don't like a circumstance that I'm in, then it's my responsibility to change it, right? It was a friend of Earl Nightingale. Take a look at Earl Nightingale, The Strangest Secret. It's a fantastic audio that was wildly successful and impacted many people. He would not accept a circumstance as it was if it wasn't to his pleasing, and he took responsibility for it. And I actually think that most successful people in the world relate to their lives like this. They take ownership for every aspect of their lives. Now, a lot of people that relate to this as control, like they take ownership and they have to control things, make people be a certain way, make situations appear a certain way. And my approach, our approach from a spiritual world, is to navigate it with a sense of ease. Now, it doesn't mean a lack of effort. So something is happening in my life that I don't appreciate. Okay, got it. This is my responsibility to take care of this. How do I do that? Now, a lot of times, most of the time, I'm going to say always. I don't say that very often, but I think this is one of those cases. It is always about something happening inside ourselves if there is something outside of ourselves that is creating a level of discontent. Always. Our life is a reflection of our internal state. We can only be as close to others as we are close to ourselves. Now, sometimes connecting with people can deepen our relationship with ourselves, and we can do it simultaneously. But rest assured, after working with probably around 10,000 families and young people and parents who wanted a closer relationship with their kids, particularly the parents, they were usually, yes, I'm going to say always, they were always limited by their relationship with themselves. And if they wanted to be closer to their kids, what always stopped them was a barrier in their relationship to themselves. Yes? So all this to say, we're not typically trained to relate to our life experience as taking ownership for it. It's such a narrative out there in the world of like, this happened to me. Can you believe that? This happened out there to me. Isn't that terrible? I got a flat tire. The pandemic happened. Isn't that awful? I mean, yes, I'm not saying those things are not awful, but we have two responsibilities in this. One, to relate to how might have I created this on some level. Now, if we put our spiritual hat on here for a second, and the spiritual esoteric hat, most particularly, we can really look deeply, and the masters have told us this, that every thought, feeling, and action that we call that karma, has a reaction. So if you really want to take this to an intense degree, some of us do this, we look at literally everything that happens to us and take ownership for how we've created it. Everything. No matter what it is. We get hit by a car, we stub our toe, someone spills juice on us, all these things. Now, in the moment, am not perfect at saying like, oh, I created that. How did I do that? I stubbed my toe, or somebody spilled something on me, or someone hit my car, whatever it is. I'm practicing being able to recognize that in the moment and how this is somehow helpful, but I'm not perfect at it. And yet, it's a standard that I have for myself. And for those of us who are high achievers, and especially in the personal transformation world, we relate to our life experience as something that can take ownership over creating. I mean, this is powerful and beyond, and more than most people can bite off in terms of taking on ownership for their lives. So that's one dimension of it. The second dimension of it is how we can take ownership for our feelings in response to what's happening out there. So some kind of a challenge happens out there, something that we weren't planning, something that's challenging or that's hard or that brings up a lot. Maybe it's something that's objectively painful. We lose someone, we get injured. I mean, very, very challenging. We could even say terrible things happen out there in the world in our spheres of existence, right? The second dimension of this is how can we relate to this as a blessing? How can we relate to it? Sure, as an opportunity. I mean, it gets kind of annoying, honestly, after a while. And I think in some circles, they call it an AFOG, another opportunity for growth, right? So there's something around that, and it can be challenging, let's say, to relate to the world in that way. But if we sincerely look at this as how whatever is happening out there, take ownership for it as an opportunity for ourselves to grow, to transform, to expand, and to continue to raise our standards for both how we feel in our lives and what we achieve and what we get. I mean, there's no limits to this stuff. Honestly, I think the only limits are a desire, right? I talk about this in other videos. If you want to get anything that you want, you need 3 components. You need to define your goal or your dream, whatever it is that you want, and be very clear about what it is that you want and stick with it. 2, create a burning desire, have a strong, heartful, emotional attachment, you could say, to having that thing. And then thirdly, create or reinforce the belief or the knowingness that you have that you'll get it. And if you stick and practice those 3 things consistently, there is nothing that you cannot have or achieve. There might be some limitations, honestly, like if I was, suddenly wanted to get into the NBA. I mean, one, I don't think I would actually there would not be a burning desire for me to do that. I mean, one, I'm 5'6.5", and I kind of suck at basketball. So, right? So there's usually this sweet spot of something that you really desire that is within your realm of belief. Like I could probably conjure up the belief that I could be in the NBA, but it wouldn't be a fit for what I'm actually to do in my life, right? So all this to say, thank you for enduring these little tangents that we take along this journey of creating content for you, is that the more that we can take ownership for everything that happens to us, some people say it happens for us in our lives, the more power we have to create internally and externally. So I hope you enjoyed this. It's always such a joy to be with you. All my best to you.